What's up, people of the world? Ready to channel your inner Captain America in Elden Ring? We're diving headfirst into an incredible Smith script shield build that will have you avenging the lands between and feeling like the star-spangled hero himself. My name's Echo14, let's get started. Alright, so let's break it down. This Captain America build isn't just about tossing a hunk of metal, it's a unique playstyle that combines quick hand-to-hand combat with bleed and an almost broken ranged projectile. You'll be able to take on enemies both far and up close and personal. Whether you're a die-hard Cap fan or just looking for a fresh way to play, this build is sure to keep your enemies on their toes. Now, before we jump into the action, let's talk about what you'll need to make this build work. First, when you think of Captain America in a fight, what's the first thing that comes to mind? That's right, these hands. So we're running with the dry leaf arts for up close and quick successive attacks. I personally went with the bleed affinity to stack up fast bleeding damage, and these things proc bleed fast, like 3 to 4 hits fast, and works tremendously with dry leaf whirlwind ash war. This ash war has a great super armor and multi-hits that stack up bleed quickly. It'll even catch multiple enemies at once and can stagger bosses fast. Now for the iconic shield of the first Avenger himself, the Smith script shield. The shield itself is the closest thing we have to Captain America's iconic weapon. Like Cap's shield, is a reliable defensive item that can also be used offensively. The shield is thrown in the air, locks onto whatever you're looking at, and it snaps at them from a high angle. Allows for a 2-hit if you're in close enough range, and can sometimes even hit shielded enemies in the back. Combining this with some quick melee attacks with some sneaky offense that'll definitely catch any opponent off guard, and is great for PvP. Armor wise, I went with the Mesmer Soldier Helm to mimic Cap's cap, the Cocoon Knight Armor for good old red, white, and blue look. For arms, I went with the Gauntlets of Solitude to beef up on some poise, and for the legs, the Greaves of Solitude, also to tank up more when using the Ash of War. As for stats, focus on strength and vigor to tank up and hit hard. As for any shield build, don't forget about endurance for stamina, because if you want to defend with the shield, you'll have to have a good amount to not stamina break. Alright, let's talk numbers. To kick things off, this is a level 150 minimum DLC build, so invest 50 points into vigor, aim for at least 20 mind to use the skills and spells, 40 in endurance to really maximize your movement and defense, 60 into strength because the weapons scale with strength, 15 dex to wield everything, 11 intelligence, 25 faith to use buffs like golden bow, and anything else into arcane for the extra bleed. For talismans, we have the Carrion Filigree Crest to lower FP consumption to spam skills, the Shard of Alexander for skill damage, the Smithing Talisman which boosts throwing weapon attacks, and the Shattered Stone Talisman to boost kicking skills for our Ash Award. You could probably swap out the Carrion Filigree Crest for something like the Rotten Wing Sword Insignia for more damage when fighting bosses instead of spamming the shield. For our flask, we have the Thorny Crack tier for successive attacks and the Stone Barb Crack tier for stance breaking using the Dry Leaf Ash Award. Now, let's talk about some tips and best practices to really utilize this build. First, you can use a shield at a distance to chunk some health off the enemy early. Second, when the enemy approaches, you can two-hand your dry leaf arts to start comboing and stacking up bleed. With the Ash Award, it's best to time it right. You can still get hit since it has a bit of a windup and can't super armor through everything. With the shield, throwing it up close can hit when it launches for a little extra damage, and it can come back and hit the enemy again, sometimes catching them off guard and hitting shielded enemies in the back. Lastly, I wouldn't recommend blocking too much with the shield because you still take a little bit of damage. But hey, even the best builds have their hiccups, right? So let's talk about some cons. One downside is that the small shield is not the best for defense because you still take a little bit of damage. I would focus more on dodging and try to throw the shield from afar. Also, the Dry Leaf Ash War has a small windup that can leave you open for attacks from bosses that don't stagger so easily, so try to time it carefully. So there you go. We got our Captain America shield throwing build, a couple tips and tricks on how to master this build, especially for PvP and PvE. So yeah, you know, when the shields start flying, they better be ducking or have a hope. Before you go, try this build out for yourself, unleash your inner hero. You know, let me know how it goes in the comment section. If you like it, if you don't, any other adjustments you would make to it, and what other builds you got going on, what other builds you want to see. More videos coming soon as my channel is getting started, so subscribe, more tips and builds. Thanks for watching. I'm Echo14, and I'll catch you in the next one.